today I am going to, well, actually over the next couple of days, I'm going to be making some sauerkraut and showing just basically kind of just going and showing real quickly the basic process of making sauerkraut, which in and of itself is actually not that hard, but as I probably predict is going to happen is that it's going to be a learning process nonetheless. This is only my second time to make it, so I'm definitely looking forward to the process. So join me in that experience. So some of the other challenges that I had with my fermenting were mold, which is actually, it's not completely uncommon. And as long as most of the vegetable matter is beneath the liquid surface, it's generally okay. So what I usually did was just pull out any top floating pieces and really tried to submerge the rest. And what I discovered through trial and error was actually a little trick I discovered because I got tired of, you can't only pick out so many tiny pieces of floating vegetable matter. At some point, there's going to be floating cabbage pieces and carrot pieces. So if you check out the link for my silicone covers, I put that in the description box. So check that out, and it's a great and very easy way to keep this from being a problem. Reducing one more headache from the fermenting, experience. And so along with the mold, the problem with the mold is generally a problem of the vegetable matter floating. And so the problem with the floating was a problem all on its own. It wasn't just pieces of vegetable. I actually was not accustomed to the volume that I had decided to ferment this time. Before I had done I think it's a pint jar. It's pretty small. It's about maybe 4 cups. Half a gallon is what I moved to. That's twice the amount, at least twice the amount of volume. And the weights that I was using, a single glass disc, wasn't enough weight. I ended up having to order more glass weights, and that only partially helped because I don't know, it was just something about the way that the food could just push up. It just was not able to stay submerged, which is important because you want, in order to have a safe ferment, the rule is keep everything submerged below liquid level, and where it's anaerobic. Well, the vegetables just would not stay submerged. And I tried and I pushed and I added another weight. And in the video, you can see me pushing down on the weight. And that's me trying to push a second one in. Like I'm trying to get this down in there and I'm pushing hard. That stuff pushes really up. Like it really does. It really wants to float. So that's a second benefit to the silicone cover idea that I had. So if you are in any way curious, I would highly recommend checking that out because it'll save you quite a few headaches. I will only be using my silicone hack from now on. That's the only way I'm going to go. The other challenge that I faced, which was a new one for me, was actually overflow, which is the problem of as the vegetables ferment. This was something I didn't realize before. As the air pushes out, the volume starts to rise. And I am not a physicist or a scientist. I'm sure there's a very lovely explanation as to why that happens. But it basically, as the pressure builds, the liquid rises kind of like in a plane. And what happened was that the liquid got too high. And in my previous batches, I had kept a good, literally probably like that's 2 or 3 inches worth from the top. And this time I got greedy and I didn't do that. And the liquid started to come out of the release valve at the very top. And I didn't notice it. And you can hear the fermenting happening. It's like little like hissing, like a really tiny hissing sound and like a little bit of a bubbling sound. But it goes away within a few days. And I had heard that, didn't think much of it. And then I'm not sure what alerted me to this, but I basically went into my pantry and I guess I saw a drop or something, or I think we have a bird we have a tiny fireplace in our bedroom and I think there's a baby bird's nest in it. It sounds like it. So hopefully that's not super annoying because that's a new noise. Anyways, so the liquid started to push out of the top, and what ended up happening, because I didn't have a saucer or anything to catch the liquid, there was no reservoir, nothing to catch it. It basically just came off the sides and was all over the shelf that they were sitting on. And the problem is that depending on how high your shelf is, it's dripping down to everything below it. So I had to clean a few shelves, which was a big bummer because it's a mess and it's, you don't want that everywhere. So it doesn't stink. It just smells like whatever vegetables were in it. And if you use a lot of onion like I do, it's pretty, aromatic. So I figured that out. And so what I ended up doing was taking out some of the vegetable matter, just go ahead and tossing it and reducing the liquid volume and just basically getting it to where it was all, had a good distance from the top. So where this fluctuation had plenty of space to do it in. Okay, so that took a couple of days for sure. That was a lot of hard work. So making sauerkraut is actually not hard, as I mentioned before, but first off, there's a lot of waste. So that picture of that disgusting that's a 5-gallon pot, which, let's see, here it is. Just to put perspective, this whole thing was overflowing with vegetable matter and a lot of vegetable, mostly vegetable. And it a huge volume of like what's left over, which is okay. That's what's supposed to happen. And even when I'm being really efficient with the use of every aspect of a cabbage, because that's what most sauerkraut is, right? Is cabbage. There's still a lot of like the outer leaves I'm not going to use that are waste, and then the cores, which are waste. And I think I went through 6 cabbage heads. I ended up getting 8, so I have 2 left over. But the just sheer volume of what was left over was kind of surprising and actually quite shocking, to be honest. And so what ended up happening was I didn't have room. I compost in my garden beds. I leave an empty box to go fallow, and then I just dig a hole, dig a trench, put the compost in, let it break down, and it usually does so pretty quickly, but not in the day or the few days that I was doing this project in. So, oh gosh. So I left it in a cooler that we're not using anymore because it has a lid, and that was the disgusting mess I came to when I opened it back up 2 weeks later. So I ended up pouring it into my bed. It's already broken down, so that compost is gone. You know, the previous compost has been fully broken down, which is fantastic. So there's a great benefit to doing sauerkraut at home, is that you get all of this lovely vegetable matter to compost, which is really great. And then as far as the tasting of these sauerkrauts, there are flavors in this combination that I have never had before. You can't buy them in the store. And it's things that I probably wouldn't necessarily think should go together. So I'm going to be doing a tasting video just to kind of give some insight into what these recipes are like, I guess. And also to kind of, I guess, touch base on like, what do these flavors taste like when you combine them, you know? Because sauerkraut has a particular basic flavor, which is a bit sour, but it doesn't taste like cabbage. So if you've never had sauerkraut, I highly recommend trying it, but be aware though that there are 2 kinds that I'm aware of, 2 basic varieties. One is whey fermented, which is whey protein, which is an additive you add, and then the other are lactobacilli fermented, which don't have whey, and it's basically considered vegan, but I much prefer it. I much prefer it. I did not like sauerkraut anytime before I tried a like just regular, no whey, just nature's fermentation bacteria on the vegetable itself sort of process. And then I was in love with it, and I have been eating it for, I guess, 7 years now. I've been eating some form of sauerkraut in some way. So definitely check out that video. I'll put the link in the description box below. And yeah, and if you're interested in fermenting, I highly recommend you try it. The first time is definitely the scariest. I was so afraid I was gonna mess this up. But to be honest, I think if you take a few kind of like trial and error things out of the equation. So I chose those lids for that reason, because they're anaerobic. Once the fermentation process gets started, the environment becomes anaerobic, which is fantastic and much safer. I eventually did end up trying one of these pickle pipes, which looks like this. And it's just a little silicone lid that's got like a little, like a nipple on it of some kind. And it's got a tiny hole in it that you can barely see. And the goal is to let the, I guess the gas that the bacteria give off is carbon dioxide. I don't know, please don't quote me. But they give off a gas that comes out. It makes the environment anaerobic. That's what these are all supposed to do. But please just know, this is only the second time I've ever done this. I am by far not an expert, but I would say do your own research, but do not be afraid to ferment. It is so amazing, the taste and quality of ferment that I get at home. I much prefer it, honestly. I've been buying sauerkraut to fill the gaps when I don't have it, and I will tell you, it's just not the same. They're fine ferments, they're fine tasting, but you just don't get the textures or the flavors that you want because you're not making it. So it makes me a happy camper just to even think about making sauerkraut. And when I was making all of this, I will tell you, my mouth was watering. There was a few of those that I literally thought, I can't wait to eat these right now, but I'm gonna let them do their thing first. So check out my tasting video, and I will see you next time.